So I know I declared on the first day of NBA free agency that the Miami Heat were winners. Well, the Miami Heat certainly were winners of day one, but we want to look at free agency in general and the totality of the NBA offseason so far. The Chicago Bulls have to be near the top of the leaderboard. They're probably among the five most improved teams through free agency so far. And there are a couple reasons for that, but we got to start off with just going through a rerun of everything that's gone on so far. So the big name free agent addition, well, sign trade edition, I should say. DeMar DeRozan reportedly was signed a 3-year, $85 million deal with Chicago in a sign trade that involves the Bulls sending Thaddeus Young and Al-Farouq Aminu, a 2025 first-round pick, and second-round picks from 2022 and 2025 to San Antonio. Not a bad deal for the Spurs, honestly. However, I think it's good for Chicago because while the picks will hurt eventually, that first round is not until 2025. So you got plenty of time to test this out and see how this plays out before you even get to that point. We're going to have to give that up. And let's be honest, second rounders in the NBA, second round picks are just not valued very highly. It's very much like throwing a dart at a dartboard with a blindfold on in the dark. You know, you never know what you're going to get with second round picks. So often they barely turn into stars. You know, it's nothing like a lottery pick or something like that. So second rounders are fairly low value risks in terms of trading them away for NBA teams. So a very good deal for the Chicago Bulls here. The other big signing, Lonzo Ball. 4 years, $85 million. So the same amount of money as DeMar DeRozan just for one more year. In a sign trade with New Orleans where Thomas Satoransky and Garrett Temple and a second-round pick are going back to the New Orleans Pelicans. So you get a point guard. You get a guy who can play anywhere from honestly point guard to small forward. You know, it's positionless basketball right now. DeMar DeRozan can really run any one of the top three positions. And frankly, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets a lot of on-ball time as well because he's averaged over 6 assists per game during his 3 years in San Antonio. Now, I don't know how much of that was just him having the ball so often that turned into assists versus how much of it's like a true point guard where Lonzo Ball will kind of facilitate and create open shots, even though he's probably not a high-level facilitator compared to the guys like Luka, LeBron, those kind of players. I think DeMar DeRozan offers some on-ball value as a guy who can get you into situations where he can run an offense and get the ball out to shooters. Now, granted, he's not going to be a deep three shooter himself. He's going to be the master of the mid-range and all that, but I think still having him on this team, having him on-ball offers quite a bit of value. And as for Lonzo, we have to talk about Lonzo Ball's growth. I know if you're a casual basketball fan, the last time you saw or heard of Lonzo Ball, he was crashing out of the Los Angeles Lakers and was looking like one of the biggest busts in that draft class. And he's turned into a fine player himself, one of the better young players in the NBA. He's still only 23 years old. In this past season, he averaged 14.6 points per game, along with 5.7 assists and 4.8 rebounds. He's still getting steals. He's still a solid defender. And he shot 37.8% from three. By the way, that was just this past season. The year before that, he shot 37.5% from three. And he's, over the past 2 years, attempted about 7.2 three-pointers per game, and his shot looks so much better. It's still a little bit weird. You know, it's still not necessarily the traditional one. It's still a little wonky, but it's much, much better. At least it looks much better, and certainly producing at a much higher level efficiency rate. So you have to feel very good about that. Two big additions for them. They also got Alex Caruso on a 4-year, $37 million deal, which is a lot of money for Alex Caruso, but it matches the market. And you got to think about this. So there's a lot of guys this year who are being quote-unquote overpaid. So if that's what it's going to cost to get these guys in this current market, you have to pay that price. Otherwise, you're just going to go home empty-handed. And Chicago can't afford to do that when they're going out and getting guys like Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan in sign trades. They need to go all in and make an impact here immediately. You also got backup center Tony Bradley signing for a 1-year minimum deal. Another really good addition. An experienced player comes on board, and you don't have to pay much for him. So that's another great move for them. The current starting lineup, if we had to project for it, you got Lonzo Ball at the point guard, Zach LaVine shooting guard, DeMar DeRozan small forward. I don't know how they'll stagger the minutes for these guys because I feel like a lot of them do produce with the ball in their hands. Like Lonzo is a guy I think can be more of a true facilitator than a scoring option. Maybe DeMar DeRozan can fit into that role as well. Maybe LaVine can fit into that role. But at the same point, all of these guys want to have the ball in their hands. They all want to shoot. So it'll be interesting to see how they stagger the minutes for those three players. Power forward's going to be interesting. You have Patrick Williams, who you drafted 4th overall last year, who had a decent rookie season. Nothing spectacular by any means, but a decent rookie season that you believe he'll expand his game, become a very good player. Maybe not a superstar, but a starting caliber player. And you also have Lauri Markkanen, who you have as a restricted free agent who is going to come back as of right now? Do you try to flip him this offseason? Do you try to flip him mid-season? Because I believe he's still a talented player. I still have faith that he can turn into a decent NBA player. Whether that's as a six-man, whether that's a starter, I'm not entirely sure. I don't know what teams can happen on. It feels like at this point it's not going to happen in Chicago. So the question is, when do you trade him? Because I feel like you have to at this point, after everything that's going on. Though he did look better last year in a bit of a different role than what he'd been in the past, and he would take a more of a reduced role, or an even greater reduced role, on a team that has guys like Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, all three of those guys working together. Markkanen wouldn't play as big a role on that team as he has in the past, especially if Patrick Williams moves into the starting lineup. So do you keep him on the bench to start and then try to see how it plays out throughout the season, then trade him? I don't really know what the answer is, but the fact that you have so many options at this point with a guy who is still young and a guy who can still command some trade value, it's pretty exciting. You have to feel good about that going into the NBA regular season, having him still on your team for now as a restricted free agent, because I believe they did extend that qualifying offer. And in your center position, Nikola Vucevic, who you traded for last year from the Orlando Magic, sending Wendell Carter over there in that deal. You got to feel really good about him too, because he's a former All-Star. He's not going to be a top 5 center. It's not going to happen. But he's certainly a top 10 guy who can shoot from outside, who will give you some rim protection, will get you the rebounds, who does a lot for you. And now, just look at the starting lineup. You have guys who have 3 guys who have been All-Stars at some point in their careers, in Vucevic, DeRozan, and LaVine. DeRozan obviously still an elite scorer. He hasn't scored under 1,000 points in 10 straight years. LaVine, All-Star this past year, certainly still turning upward, becoming one of the better scorers in the NBA. And people really started to turn the corner with their opinions on him. There were some people who thought you could never win with Zach LaVine. And last season, there were some games where he really turned it on. People began to see that maybe you can. So they have to feel good about that. Vucevic comes over. He's always helped Orlando overachieve. The Magic just are not, never really been a great team while he's been there. They still made the playoffs a couple of times. So you feel like you've added another All-Star caliber position, especially in a time where there's maybe only 5 or 6 elite centers in the NBA. So having someone like Vucevic around is going to help you out quite a bit. Lonzo Ball is still getting better by the day, so you have to feel really solid about your backcourt at this point. And then you got some younger guys. I already mentioned Patrick Williams. You're hoping to improve. Kobe White had over 1,000 points this past year, but he was in negative in terms of value over replacement. That's one of the stats that I go to quite a bit. It's partially because of his defense, partially because of his shooting. It's a little bit back and forth. I think we can still develop Kobe White. He'll still be a good NBA player. But you have to hope that he puts it together here in this 3rd or 4th season, because right now he's still not a guy I feel comfortable starting. So you have to hope that there's another step for him coming up here very soon in his NBA career. And there really could be, because he's already ahead of where Lonzo Ball was in his 2nd season, at least on the offensive end of the ball. So you feel good about Kobe White, that he'll be able to develop even a little bit more. And this year, kind of got a steal with your draft pick, 38th overall, Ayo Dosunmu from, I said it right this time, I'm so happy I said it right, from Illinois. This is a guy who was a consensus All-American last year. He was the Big Ten tournament MVP, and he was averaging 20.1 points per game while shooting 39% from 3. And he's just a solid scorer player. You're going to get some scoring out of him off the bench. I don't think he'll be a superstar. I think he's just going to get some scraps for minutes as a rookie. But still a really good player to get with a 38th overall pick. So you have to feel really good about some of the youth on his team with Kobe White, Patrick Williams, Ayo Dosunmu, all on the team. And you also signed Alex Caruso at the Caruso for 4 years, $37 million. Again, I think I already mentioned that. A little bit of an overpay, but not necessarily in the market. If you're holding it in just in a vacuum, maybe you paid too much. But for a really good defensive player who can offer some highlight reel dunks, you'll live with that. You can live with this. So Chicago, DeRozan, Ball, Caruso, Bradley, your newest additions, Kobe White, Patrick Williams, Dosunmu, some of your youngest talented players. You feel really good about them developing. The Chicago Bulls are going to be over 500 this year. And they're going to be back in the playoffs and be competitive in the playoffs for the first time, since the Jimmy Butler era? Chicago Bull fans, get your season tickets now. This is going to be a fun ride.